Mr. Theophanos, nice to meet you, and thank you for accepting our invitation to make an interview.
Pleasure for the invitation.
So let's start with the first question. How would you assess in general the current relation between Armenia and Cyprus, and what perspectives in this regard do you see for further strengthening and developing relations between the two countries?
There have always been historical and cultural relations between the people of Armenia and the people of Cyprus. Now we have embassies in Nicosia, Armenia, and a Cypriot embassy here in Armenia. That's very important. And I think in addition to the cultural relations we could see and the economic relations, we could see what could happen in the educational dimension. Plus, and I think that's very important, to share experiences in the political field. I mean, problems Armenia has been facing, what policy changes have been made, how you address these changes, and we can also share our experiences with you, what went wrong, what have been our achievements, and so on. And I think such an exercise will be very useful.
And about the cooperation between two countries, in what fields do you see opportunities to strengthen this cooperation between two countries?
As I said, in the economic sphere, of course, in the educational sphere, but also in the exchange of information in relation to the politics of the two countries. I mean, like, you have ethnic conflict, we have ethnic conflict. You want to get closer with the European Union and the West in general. Cyprus is a part of the European Union. It's very important to share experiences and how we go on about that. Plus, also the importance of a narrative. One of the issues that Cyprus has been facing is that it was not successful in conveying a message to the international community about what has really happened in Cyprus. I can ask the same question here. What are the issues facing Armenia? What happened recently in Nagorno-Karabakh? What Armenia wants in its relations in the region, in relation with the West, and also its geopolitical directions.
So, speaking about the European Union, as we know, Armenia during the recent years has been actively deepening cooperation and relations with the European Union. So, Cyprus as a member of the European Union, what would be the advice from Cyprus in this regard to Armenia?
It's not an issue of advice, it's an issue of exchanging information and making your own conclusions. For example, I can tell you very well that when Cyprus was pursuing its accession process with the European Union, there were extremely high expectations in relation to how the European Union could address the Cyprus question, how could it help us overcome the occupation from Turkey and arrive at a solution of the Cyprus problem. I would not use the word just, but a manageable solution. Our expectations in relation to that, they were not met. There was kind of disappointment by the Cypriots because we had higher expectations than what we actually got. Furthermore, I would say that we have observed, I mean, it's not only us, foreign observers talk about it, that the treatment, the reaction of the European Union towards the Russian invasion of Ukraine was much different in relation to the Turkish occupation of the northern part of Cyprus. You saw in the case of Russia, there was so many sanctions. Today there is a great antagonism between Europe and Russia. In the case of the occupation of the northern part of Cyprus by Turkey, Europe has not reacted. There are many, Turkish relations, despite their problems, their difficulties, they move on. Turkey receives so much money from, the European Union without substantive conditions in relation its treatment of the Republic of Cyprus and other countries of the Union, such as Greece, for example. I would also say that the northern part of Cyprus is occupied European territory, and we expected higher sensitivity from our European partners. That has not been the case.
So, Mr. Theophanos, as we know, there is a situation now between Turkey and Armenia. We all know that the relation between the two countries were not normalizing for a long time, but now the government of Armenia and Armenia is taking steps towards normalizing the relations between Turkey. So there is a situation between Cyprus and Turkey. How can we compare this situation, and how would you describe this?
Okay. By definition, each case is unique, although there may be similarities and differences. In the case of Armenia, we are aware of the historic grievance of the Armenian people in relation to the genocide, and there was a genocide. At this time, the Armenian government, with pragmatism, it wants to move on. It wants to achieve a normalization of relations both with Azerbaijan and Turkey, with mutual respect and respecting also the territorial integrity of all countries. I respect that very much. In our case, Turkey invaded Cyprus. Since 1974, it occupies almost 40% of the territory. It refuses to discuss the Cyprus problem directly with us. So there are intercommunal negotiations between Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, although Turkish Cypriots cannot make any decision without Turkey. So in our case, it has been a very difficult situation. I would say that there has been no progress, despite a lot of concessions by the Republic of Cyprus and the Greek Cypriot side in general. The policy that has been pursued by the Republic in the last 51 years, has not led to any results. Personally, because I follow this issue, I study, I write about it, I come to the conclusion that we must enrich the process. I have suggested a gradualist approach to solving the Cyprus problem, while at the same time we advance steps or suggestions to have a normal state, and at the same time we need to have a narrative to convince our European partners and the international community about this. At the same time, also it's important to strengthen the factors of power. In order to do it. It's a difficult situation. Now, coming back to the issue of Armenia, it's not only the relations between Armenia and Turkey, and Armenia and Azerbaijan, and Turkey and Azerbaijan. As you know, there are other players in the equation. Now, I'm sure the European Union could make its own contribution, but on the other hand, it's very important not to have high expectations from the Union, in the sense that it has not fully yet developed itself as a power with foreign policy, with security policy cohesively, and with extremely high leverage in international politics. So these issues are very important to keep in mind, while at the same time I understand the brave decisions of the Armenian government to try to proceed and arrive in a situation where it could be possible to have peace and stability.
Coming to this summit, how would you describe and assess the importance or the role in the modern international relations, the passing this kind of summits, the Yerevan dialogue?
I think I came yesterday, and I have seen the program as it evolved, and I followed the deliberations today. The beginning was a strong opening by first the speech of the Foreign Ministry of Armenia, who tried to describe the world and the challenges that the world is facing, in addition to what Armenia is trying to do. Then we heard the Prime Minister of Armenia, who focused exclusively on the issue of trying to achieve peace with Azerbaijan. He hinted also in relation to Turkey, I mean the other country. It was clear message which was here in Yerevan, directed not only to the Armenian people but also to the foreign participants, and there were many foreign participants. And then we also heard the Prime Minister of Slovakia, who also put forward his case in relation to the importance of participation in the European Union, but at the same time he underlined that he will not agree with all decisions made by the European Union. And that was sincere and brave of him, and it reflects the current reality. So, summing up, I consider this event important, this exchange, and I have also followed the other deliberations in relation to the other pressing issues of the world today, including relations between the United States and European Union, relations between Europe and Russia, and the trends there, positions of most, in relation to the Ukrainian issue. But I have pointed out that, the situation of Cyprus, I heard the word Cyprus mentioned only once, and not in the way as it is, fully, that Turkey is occupying that part of European territory. So it gives us the opportunity to put forward certain issues here. I also find very important the discussions in relation to the regional conflict, the importance of economics in trying to improve situations in various countries. But I would note that at the same time, while economics and trade and communication are important in the relations of peoples, in the relations of nations, on its own it's not enough. When, for example, you need to make peace, economics may help, but you need political will to get down to what you really want. Peace with stability and a feeling that it is a fair settlement.
Thank you so much.